What's up, Bears fans? Welcome to Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. On today's show, we're going to take a look at the top 25 free agent targets for your Chicago Bears, as they need to add some players. We all know that. And they've got the resources to do it. Roughly $69-ish million right now in cap space. Very nice. That number can get higher, obviously, if they make a few cuts. And stay tuned for you loyal Bears Now viewers. We will have a cut candidates video on the channel soon as well. Top 25 free agent targets coming up in just a second. But when you examine what this team needs in terms of personnel, what have we been talking about for months? Trenches, offensive line, defensive line. So I think first and foremost, the interior of that offensive line must be addressed. You could argue that you need a center and two new guards. Edge rusher. I think 2, 3, 4, you could kind of order it in whichever your flavor is. I'm going to go edge number 2. You've got Montez Sweat, but a bunch of question marks after that. Left tackle, you could go with Braxton for another year, but if you want to upgrade there's some avenues to getting a left tackle in free agency or the draft, quite frankly. Defensive tackle, obviously you'll get Andrew Billings back. You have Javon Dexter, but you need more there. And then I've got running back after that. I think adding somebody to pair with DeAndre Swift is going to be a pretty important component, especially considering what Ben Johnson likes to do, which is run the football quite a bit. Okay, what say you? What is the top Bears roster need? If you had to say one specific position, what would that position be? To me, I'll kind of group together guard and center. I think you got to get that interior offensive line under control. That way Caleb Williams is not under duress straight in front of him like he was a lot this past year. Okay, let's dive into it here. Top 25 free agent targets. We'll spend more time once we get into the top 10 here. Closer toward the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. But Cam Robinson, free agent left tackle with the Vikings. Remember, they traded for him from Jacksonville after Christian Darrisaw went down, which means he definitely won't be back in Minnesota. I'll be honest, I'm not sure he's really an upgrade for Braxton Jones, and even if he is, it's a slight one. I'd rather just keep Braxton at his cheap price tag, but he did end the season with an injury, so if there's a concern there, Cam Robinson could be a guy to look at. Brandon Scherff, a little bit older, 33, 34 years old. He was mentioned in trade rumors at the trade deadline. I thought maybe the Bears would jump in there and trade for him cheap. They did not. Good move, because they lost 10 games in a row and were not competitive. But maybe now if they want to sign him, they could do so. Aaron Banks, another guard they could look at. A little bit younger, had an up and down rookie contract with the San Francisco 49ers. He's not better than a Tevin Jenkins, but he's more durable. He would probably be cheaper as well, so an interesting name to monitor there. How about Dante Fowler Jr.? He's kind of been reborn in Washington following Dan Quinn there. I think he's got like 11 sacks this year. He's been great in the playoffs. I think if you could get him for the right price tag on a 1 or 2 year deal as just a pass rush specialist, that would be ideal. I could see him staying with the Commanders, though. Zach Martin, when he's healthy, he's still good, but he's 33, 34 years old. Does he go the Tyron Smith route, leave Dallas late in his career to extend it elsewhere? Does Dallas bring him back? To me, I think he either retires because he ended the season on IR, or he stays in Dallas. But if he did want to keep playing and if Dallas didn't want to bring him back, he'd be a decent option on a 1 year deal because he's still solid when healthy. All right, we get into the top 20 here. Chase Young. We're always talking about Chase Young on Bears Now, it would seem. Had a decent year in New Orleans. He has some injury concerns. He doesn't play the run that well, but he's played with Montez Sweat before. They obviously have that rapport. He is a talented pass rusher. If the price tag was cheap enough, I would be interested. Milton Williams. This guy is a sleeper, folks. He had one of the best seasons as an interior pass rusher in the NFL. Now, you got to factor in a few things here. One, rotation guy in Philly, tons of talent around him. 2, he does not play the run at all. 3, Vic Fangio scheme defense, which is a 3-4. If the Bears opt to go 4-3, does he fit? I'm not sure. He could get a huge payday too. If it's, I saw a projection $20 million per year. That's too steep for me. But if it's cheaper than that, he's an intriguing young player. Osa Odighizuwa, the Dallas Cowboys defensive tackle. He's an intriguing young player as well. PFF gave him like $18 million a year in a projection. That's pretty steep for me, but he is talented. You could throw him on that defensive tackle grouping on this defense. A couple of defensive tackles there to monitor in Williams and Odighizuwa. All right, before we continue, we are sponsored by Game Time here at Chicago Bears Now. And listen, you want to go to a playoff game? Do you want to go to the big game here in a couple of weeks? You want to go to a college hoops game, Blackhawks, Cubbies, White Sox in a couple of weeks or a couple months, I should say, when those seasons get going. Obviously, you got the Bulls as well. How about a concert, comedy show, date night? Get out of the house and get your tickets with Game Time today. Tons of awesome features, including views from the seats, event cancellation policy, all-in pricing. You can toggle on that feature. That way you're not surprised at checkout. And Game Time Picks, their newest feature in the last couple of months. It's going to narrow down your search and make it much easier for you to find tickets in a timely manner within your price range. So be sure to do that. Download the app today, create an account, use promo code CHATSPORTS, all one word, CHATSPORTS, to get $20 off your first purchase. Only terms do apply. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. What time is it? It's game time. All right, Malcolm Kuntz, a player to watch. PFF linked him to the Bears, interestingly enough. I will say this. He had an awesome 2023. He missed all of this season. So I wonder what kind of contract he gets. He's 26 years old, young, talented player. I actually am a big fan of his game. He can kick inside every once in a while as well. He's a bigger defensive end, and the Bears, if they go with a 4-3, would probably prefer that. Can play the run, can rush the passer. I think the medical would be key here. They'd have to check out that, obviously. He'd have to pass a physical, but if he does, he's a young, talented, ascending player, and you might get him on a little discount because he is coming off injury. DeMarcus Lawrence, another vet. He's 32. He had some injury issues this year with Dallas. Historically, one of the best run-stopping defensive ends in the NFL, but kind of like Zach Martin. Is he a Cowboys lifer? Is he willing to go elsewhere? Does Dallas want to bring him back at this stage in his career, coming off injury? It's hard to say. Obviously, Dallas historically does not pay big, especially for players out of their prime, but he's taken less money to stay there in the past. It wouldn't shock me if he did it again, but 1-2-year deal, reasonable contract, I certainly wouldn't say no. Top 15 here, J.K. Dobbins, one of two running backs I'm going to mention here, had a resurgence in L.A. playing with Jim Harbaugh in that Greg Roman system. I would prefer draft for a running back to pair with DeAndre Swift, but I like Dobbins' physical style. He also has the ability to hit the home run. I do think he's a starting level back. I don't think it's some major upgrade over Swift, but you could kind of turn it into a 1-2 punch if you wanted to do so. James Daniels, how about that? You want to bring him home? He was having a great early part of this season for Pittsburgh before he ended the season on IR. They got rid of him, or they let him go when Poles took the job because he didn't necessarily fit the scheme that they were running offensively with Luke Getsy. Would Ben Johnson feel differently? Would he look at James Daniels as a player that could fit in nicely? I'm not sure, but talented guard when healthy. He's had some injury issues in his career, but like I said, he was playing at a high level before he got injured this year. Subscribe to the channel. We will continue to hit you guys with the latest news, coaching staff updates, draft, free agency videos. It's going to be a busy offseason here on Chicago Bears Now. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. We are the channel for you. Appreciate you guys for rocking and rolling with us all off season long. Okay, not Ryan Kelly. We'll get to him in a minute. I was thinking Colts. Will Fries. He's kind of the worst kept secret now. Like everybody knows about him. Had a great year. Was one of the highest graded guards in the NFL. But he's had an injury, a leg issue. So I'll be curious to see what he hits on the open market. But I think he's kind of in that tier 2 of free agent guards to kind of keep an eye on here. Marquise Brown, we've talked about him once or twice. I wonder if the Bears let Keenan Allen walk, 'cause he's a little older. He may want to go chase a championship somewhere, which in year one of Ben Johnson, that's probably not super realistic. But also, you need more speed on this offense. What does Detroit have on the outside opposite of St. Brown? Jamison Williams. I'm not saying Marquise Brown is that, but we know he's a burner. He can make things happen. He can take the top off of defense, do some different things with him. And he should be fairly cheap. He missed most of this year with an injury with Kansas City. Mekhi Becton, I think this is going to be the most fascinating player in free agency because with the Jets, he had weight issues. He had a ton of injuries. Then he goes to Philly. He's fringe all-pro, kicks inside to guard. I just is this Nate Davis 2.0 on steroids? That's what I worry about. this guy gets a huge contract and maybe, I'm not saying he checks out, I'm not attacking his character or anything, but he had weight concerns and injury problems in Philly, it would just make me nervous. So I wonder if he has to sign like a 1 or 2 year deal to kind of prove it further beyond this year. And also you have to factor in Philly's got the best offensive line coach in the league in Jeff Stoutland, and he's playing next to all pros. So I'll be curious to see what his market looks like. But when he's healthy, man, he is a talented player. Top 10 here, Najee Harris. I think he'd be the one running back, depending on price, that stylistically would be a good mesh with DeAndre Swift, who's more of the outside perimeter, catch the ball, win with speed. Harris is more of the downhill runner. I wish he had a little more wiggle to him, but 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. I just think he's going to get overpaid because last year was a great free agency class. And this year, there's not that many, so some team might get desperate and give Harris like $10, $11 million per year. I'd rather just draft a guy who's on a rookie contract, cheaper and probably more explosive, but he's a name to monitor if the Bears want to go in that direction. What say you? Should the Bears sign or draft a running back? Type S for sign or D for draft. I'm heavily leaning draft in this standpoint. Draft someone to pair with Swift. Make Roschon your RB3. That's your running back room. I think it's that simple. How about Kevin Zeitler? I look at Ben Johnson coming over from Detroit, and anytime a coordinator gets a head coaching job, he's going to look at some of the guys that helped him have success. Well, Detroit's offense doesn't have a lot of free agents. Khalif Raymond is a name to monitor as a kick returner, wide receiver 4 type, maybe a DeAndre Carter replacement. But Zeitler, free agent guard, 34 years old, stud. Had a great year. Obviously not a long-term option. 1 or 2 year deal, though. Shouldn't be more than $7-8 million per year. I think this is the top player you'll see be linked to the Bears from Detroit because he'll know Ben Johnson's offense, the verbiage and all that stuff. Obviously, he's going to tweak the offense around Caleb Williams and the Bears personnel, but the Bears need interior help. We talked about that at the beginning of the video. Zeitler knows the scheme. You get him on a cheapish deal, spend more money on your other guard, a player we'll talk about in a minute, and all of a sudden your guard position goes from a weakness to a strength. B.J. Hill, defensive tackle, always been a fan of his game. Stops the run. He's got a little pass rush in him as well. 3-down defensive tackle. You put him in there, you've got your 3-headed trio of Javon Dexter, Andrew Billings, and B.J. Hill. I like that quite a bit. Ryan Kelly, one of 2 centers we're going to talk about. Kelly, 31, 32 years old, a little bit older. Probably be looking at like a 2-year contract, but a reasonable price. He's been doing it a long time. Good in pass pro, good in the run game as well. Not a star, but a good player. Josh Sweat, is this going to be a who's the guy from the Jets last year that signed with the Eagles and has done nothing? He's kind of a heavy rotation defensive end, but I could see some team overpaying here. 8 sacks this year. He had an 11-sack season a few years ago with the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, the Bears need pass rushers, and teams always look at pass rushers as you look at his stats here from this past season. Pretty good with Philly, but I do always look at this. It's like, okay, Philly's loaded. They have good defensive tackles. They're rotating all the time because they have so much depth. Like, is that a guy you try to make him a full-time starter and he's just not capable of that? I do worry that this is a classic overpay type of player, so keep an eye on him. I like his game, but I'm not sure I'm breaking the bank for him. Okay, top 5 here. Alaric Jackson, one of 2 left tackles I would seriously consider signing in free agency if they want to upgrade for Braxton Jones. Otherwise, I'm looking at draft or I'm keeping Braxton Jones. Young player, 6'7", 345, so just a bulldozer on the blind side. Typically, Poles has liked lighter tackles, guys who are a little bit more mobile. But again, new scheme, Ben Johnson, he had some bigger offensive linemen in Detroit. Wouldn't shock me if Jackson's a player that he's kept an eye on. Ronnie Stanley, big frame as well. Not as heavy, but about 6'6", 315. Could certainly see him. He's had a great bounce-back season, had been battling injuries the past couple of years. But when he's right, he's one of the best left tackles in the NFL. And the Ravens have a lot of big contracts. I could see them letting him go at the age of 30 and trying to draft a left tackle or find a cheaper option. So keep an eye on Stanley. This is probably his last time to really cash in. Khalil Mack. Reunion, anybody? He's announced recently he's going to return in 2025. He's been pretty good with the Chargers since leaving the Bears, in all honesty. Had that 17-sack season 2 years ago. Kind of, I don't want to say out of nowhere, but like that was a monster year. But even in the other 2 years, 8 sacks, 6 sacks. Look, is he all pro? Hall of Fame level Khalil Mack still? No, but you still get those flashes. And if he's your number 2 edge rusher, like if you pair him and Montez Sweat together, they both play the run, they both rush the passer. We know what Mack's about in terms of an intangibles guy. 2 years, $35 million, something like that. I'd be pretty interested, man. All right, Drew Dalman, who we've talked about, the Falcons center. You know, you could debate if him or Ryan Kelly's better. Dalman's 6 years younger, though, so I would rather go in that direction. It would give you more of a long-term answer there. He is excellent in the run game. He's an average pass protection center, but he has improved there, but he's awesome in the run. We know Ben Johnson is going to pull his guards and centers a lot, get his linemen on the move in the run game, which I like quite a bit. He did that a lot in Atlanta. You look at his last 2 years, his PFF grades, his sacks and penalties, very good numbers across the board. That pass blocking improved this year, which is a good sign. If he can stay in that above average range as a pass blocker, I can live with that. If he's a really good run blocker, he would be an upgrade, in my opinion, over Coleman Shelton. And then the guy that any team that even slightly needs an offensive lineman is going to target is Trey Smith. He is going to get a massive contract. The highest paid guard in the NFL right now, I think, is $21 million. I expect him to top that. I think he will get 22, 23 a year because he's in his prime, 26, best guard on the market by a mile. And the Bears need to open up the checkbook and try to get this guy. Poles was there in Kansas City when they drafted him. He's been a stud. You put him at right guard with Darnell Wright at right tackle, that becomes a strength on the right side of your offensive line. I'm a big fan of that idea. Okay, there you go. 25 free agent targets. Who is your number 1 free agent target for the Chicago Bears? Let us know in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time.